At first, Taylor seemed perfect. That was what made it so confusing. I met Taylor through a mutual friend at a birthday dinner. We talked for almost the entire evening. She remembered little details about everything I said. My favorite coffee. The city I wanted to visit someday. The book I was reading. The presentation I was nervous about at work. A few days later, she asked me out. The first date felt effortless. Conversation flowed naturally. There were no awkward silences. No pressure. No games. When the evening ended, she smiled and said she wanted to see me again. I drove home thinking, maybe this is finally different. Over the next few weeks, everything seemed to confirm that feeling. Taylor remembered everything. She asked thoughtful questions. She sent good morning messages. She checked in after my stressful meetings. She made plans instead of leaving everything up to me. She was affectionate, funny, reliable. Friends kept saying, "She seems amazing." I agreed, because she did. For the first month, everything felt easy. We laughed constantly, stayed out too late, tried new restaurants, went on long walks, talked almost every day. I started imagining what this relationship could become. Then something subtle began to change. Not overnight, not dramatically, just little moments that were easy to overlook. Whenever conversations became emotional, Taylor found a way to move away from them. If I asked, "How are you really doing?" she would make a joke. If I shared something personal, she would hug me, then immediately change the subject. If I asked about her past, the answers stayed vague. Always enough to satisfy the question. Never enough to reveal much. I told myself everyone opens up at different speeds. That seemed reasonable. Then life became difficult. Taylor had a stressful week at work. Instead of leaning on me, she disappeared. Messages became shorter. Phone calls stopped. Plans were postponed. I worried that I had done something wrong. Then, almost a week later, she came back exactly as before. Warm, funny, affectionate, almost as though nothing had happened. I accepted it. I told myself she just needed space. A few weeks later, it happened again. This time, I was the one struggling. A close family member had been admitted to the hospital. I was overwhelmed. I was not looking for solutions. I was not asking anyone to fix my problems. I just wanted someone to sit beside me and say, "I am here." Instead, Taylor slowly became distant again. The timing hurt. Not because she was cruel. Because she seemed uncomfortable with my pain. When life became emotionally heavy, she quietly stepped away. Once everything settled down, she returned to normal, as though the difficult week had never happened. That was when I finally noticed the pattern. It was not that Taylor could not care. I believe she genuinely did care. The problem was different. She was comfortable with closeness, as long as the relationship stayed emotionally light. The moment real vulnerability appeared, she seemed to retreat. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I was expecting too much. Maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I needed to be more independent. So I became easier. I stopped bringing up difficult conversations. I stopped asking questions about the future. I stopped sharing when I was having a hard day. For a while, things actually felt better. We laughed again, went on dates, watched movies, cooked dinner together. Everything seemed peaceful. but something inside me felt lonelier than ever. I realized we were sharing experiences, without sharing ourselves. One evening, after nearly 4 months together, I asked a simple question. "What are you looking for?" Taylor smiled. "I prefer to let relationships develop naturally." It sounded reasonable. So I waited. A month passed. Nothing changed. We spent weekends together, met each other's friends, talked almost every day. But every conversation about commitment somehow drifted away before it reached an answer. One evening I asked again, "Do you see this becoming a serious relationship?" Taylor looked down for a long moment. Finally she said, "I do not know." For the first time, I believed her. Not because I thought she was rejecting me, because I realized she was being honest. That answer explained everything. It explained the mixed signals. It explained the disappearing acts. It explained why emotional conversations always seemed unfinished. It explained why I always felt close to her, but never fully connected. The hardest part was realizing there was no villain. Taylor was not manipulating me. She was not pretending. She was simply unable to meet me where I needed her emotionally. And I had spent months trying to solve a problem that only she could solve. Looking back, I noticed something else. Every time she pulled away, I chased. Every time she became quiet, I became louder. Every time she avoided difficult conversations, I carried them alone. Without realizing it, I had accepted responsibility for both of our emotional lives. That was never my job. The relationship ended quietly. There was no dramatic fight, no betrayal, no shouting, just one honest conversation between two people who wanted different things. When we said goodbye, I felt sad, but I also felt relieved, because uncertainty had finally been replaced with clarity. Now, when people ask me what emotional unavailability looks like, I do not think about people who never text back, or people who refuse to date. Sometimes emotionally unavailable people do text every day. They remember your birthday. They hold your hand. They introduce you to their friends. They laugh with you. They care about you. The real difference appears when life becomes emotionally uncomfortable. When conflict happens. When vulnerability appears. When commitment is discussed. Do they move closer? Or do they quietly step away? That question changed how I date. I stopped asking myself, "Does she like me?" Instead, I started asking, "Can she stay emotionally present when life becomes difficult?" Because attraction can begin a relationship. Chemistry can make it exciting. Shared interests can keep two people together for a while. But emotional availability is what allows love to grow. Without it, you can spend months, or even years, feeling close to someone, while never truly feeling seen. And that kind of loneliness is often the hardest one to recognize.